Hey everyone, I'm Tom Pounder, online campus pastor here at New Life Christian Church, and in the early 90s we got to experience the lovely sounds and melodies of grunge music. Do you remember grunge music? Well, if you were my age, or if you are my age, you would probably recognize grunge music. But if you're younger than me, you probably don't know grunge music. Well, grunge music had bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains. Those were some of the more popular ones. And actually, there were tons of grunge bands that were really good. And if you had a popular or favorite grunge band that you liked, definitely put it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what your favorite band was back then. But back in the day, in the early 90s, Pearl Jam had their debut album. It was called 10. And to this day, I can listen to 10 from start to finish and love every single song. It's a very great album for me to listen to. I love listening to it. And so 10 is one of my more favorite albums. And in 10, Eddie Vedder, who's the lead singer of Pearl Jam, just unloads tons of emotional songs about his childhood and his high school years, in regards to his family life and his friend life. And it's very powerful, and a lot of people related to it. That's why it was so popular. And again, us Gen Xers, we could all relate to angst and anxiety and stresses that Eddie was going through because that's what he was singing about. Well, the last song on the album is a song called Release. It's a really long song, but in it, it really highlights a lot of Eddie's stress and his anxiety in the sense of with his relationship with his father. He never knew his father. In fact, the person that he thought was his father was not really his father, it was his stepfather. And his father had passed away and he never knew him. And so he writes this song that's just powerful about him talking to his father, and he asks him, he just cries out and says, release me, release me. I want to be free. I just feel all this stress and anxiety. And he's talking to his father. And in the same way, I think we have a lot of stress, and I think we have a lot of anxiety. And here's where I'm getting to it. Again, thanks for holding with me during this introduction, but there is a biblical message here, and there is an application here, because here's the deal. I think we all try to control our own life. I think we all try to do what we can to make sure that we live our best life. That's what we want to do. We want to live our best life. And so we try to control every decision. We try to make sure we thoughtfully plan out everything that we do. We manipulate things even so that we can benefit from them. And in some ways, I just feel like we just need to release. We just need to release ourselves from the control that we live under. Okay? And again, control is a different thing for different people. But in a lot of ways, we need to release control of our lives and release it over to God. You know, Jesus was asked one time, how do you pray? What do you do when you pray? And so he says this in Matthew chapter 6. He says for us how to pray. And I'm going to read it for you real quick. It says this. He says, this is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Hey, this whole prayer is great, and it actually gives you a really great model for how you can be praying throughout your day. But I want to focus on one little section. It's found in verse 10. It says this, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Hey, here's where I'm getting to in regards to control. It talks about your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Talk about God's will be done. I think in a lot of things that we do, we try to control our lives. We try to make sure that we live our best life. But what we need to do is release it over to God and say, your will be done, God, not my will. God's will be done. You know, God's in control, honestly. Whether you think so or not, God's in control. And God wants to help you lead your life. In fact, it says this in Isaiah chapter 30. Isaiah was talking to the people of Israel. And he says, whether you turn to the left or to the right, your ears will hear a voice behind you, and you'll saying, this is the way, walk in it. Okay, this is the way, walk in it. A lot of things that we do, we try to control our lives. I've already said that before. But we try to control our lives. And what we need to do is open our lives open to God and ask God, hey, God, guide me today. Lead me today. And when we do open ourselves up to that and we hear the voice of God, we'll know, go to the right or go to the left, go straight, whatever way it is. But if we don't open ourselves up to God, we're there then just trying to control our lives, trying to do what we think is best when we may not know what is best or how to live that best life. So today I want to challenge you. Release your will over to God's will and ask God, God, may your will be done. Lead me today. What is it that you want me to do today? And spend that time then hearing God's voice, asking God to speak to you and lead you so you know whether you need to go to your right or to your left or to the straight, or whether you need to turn behind in some way. Ask God to lead you. Give over the control to God. Release that control over to God and see where he leads you. I know this. When I try to control my life, when I try to really just suffocate everything and just try to control it so I can live the best life I can live, it never works out the way it should work out. I'm always messing something up in some way. I don't always know it at the time, but I always mess up something along the way. So I want to ask you to release that control over God and see where he leads you today. I guarantee you, when you release that control, it's much more freeing. You have that weight off your shoulders, and it's much more freeing, and God can lead you the right path to go. So that's my encouragement for you today. And I would love for you to share with me. If you've got thoughts, if you've got comments, if you've got questions, definitely put it in the comments section below. I would love to hear your stories or your questions. Or you can simply email me, tomp@newlife.church. But again, the encouragement, release that control over to God today and see where he leads you. I guarantee you it's going to be much better than what we could ever do when we try to control. All right, everyone. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Have a great one, everyone.